Hi, my name is Johnny Walker. I'm a senior at Online High School, Nebraska University, and this is my Project 2 Part A uh, of Personal Finance and Economics, where I was told to do research on three different banks and what they had to offer and pick one that best fit my situation. The first, I decided to call each bank uh, because I feel like you can better understand customer service and how they value you as a customer rather than just getting the answers online. So the first bank I called was Wells Fargo. I talked to Lisa, but it was after 20 minutes of being on hold, which I didn't appreciate. But it was rather good hold music. It was good upbeat. I was ready to make some moves. But we talked about first question I asked her is what type of checkings accounts they offered, and she named off quite a few, and we both decided that the everyday deposit checking account would be best suited for me. Um, to get this account started, it would cost $25 to open it and $5 per month to keep it active. And as far as the minimum balance requirements with Wells Fargo went, it was actually quite complicated, but made sense. There are a couple different ways you can do it. You can either have a $1,500 minimum balance in that account, or you have to have $500 direct deposited into that account each month. Um, that has to be from your Social Security or your employer. And if you don't reach those two, you have to have 10 debit card transactions uh, per month on that on towards that account to make sure you meet those requirements. I asked her about interest, and this was a non-interest checking account, which doesn't really affect me because I'll be using the account very often, so it won't be sitting there. That money won't be sitting there to build off of. Um, then I went on to talk about checks, and I asked her about a checkbook, and for 120 checks, it could cost anywhere from $18 to $20, depending on if you ordered them uh, 6 months. For the next 6 months, it would cost you $18, or if you ordered them monthly, it would cost you $20 for 120 checks. There were no limits on the amount of checks I could write per day for that account. I might drive him crazy with 100, but as she stated, there were no limits on that. Number of withdrawals allowed from that account daily. She said as long as there aren't a there isn't an amount of times that you can uh, withdraw that would exceed a limit, but you do only get $310 per day to take out. And she said if you're dealing with more funds in your account, you can take out more at a time. Um, but that would have to be reviewed with and talked about between you and Wells Fargo, depending on how much money you had in the account. Um, for overdraft protection plans, there really weren't any, which was kind of scary. If you had other accounts in Wells Fargo, there were, but just to jump into an account at Wells Fargo, um, there was no plan. If you made the mistake, it was a $35 transaction fee, um, and that could be. And if you do it you're allowed to make four of those mistakes and go over your limit per day. So you could be looking at least $130, $140 a day if you're not paying attention with no leeway at all, which was rather frustrating to hear. As far as ATMs go, all the banks I talked to had uh, no fees if you went through their bank, but with all three again, um, it was a $250 or $2.50 charge from their personal bank, and then it would be an additional $2.50 from that ATM you're pulling it out of. So it costs you $5 every time you take out money, which was quite a bit. That adds up. As far as debit cards go, Wells Fargo was the best. They mail you one for free of charge, and if you lose it, it's free of charge to replace. Um, there weren't any other outstanding fees. The only main one I had to deal with was the overdraft fee, and to be careful with that. Closing an account, as long as your bank account is at zero and you have zero pending fees or transactions, it actually doesn't cost you anything to close account. You're good to go, and say good riddance, I guess. Bank responsibilities. This is Wells Fargo was the best at this by far. They monitor your account the best. As I play hockey in North Dakota, I live in Arizona, and they said as long as communication is kept open, they would watch to make sure there's no fraud, and make sure all the accounts or all the transactions I make are me and wasn't someone else. And if there is any fraud and your credit card is stolen, they replace 100% of the money, as long as it wasn't your fault of giving out your PIN number or your debit card number. And that's all I had for Wells Fargo. The next bank I called was Bank of America. They had a, excuse me, I'm just checking the pages here. They were, it was tough with Bank of America. I wasn't real happy with all the charges and everything. Seems like there's a lot of sketchiness going on with Bank of America. There were also, again, many types of checkings accounts. They were business, they were personal. We decided to go with the core, which was the standard, I guess, checking account for me, and we really focused on that. And to open this account was $35 with a $12 monthly fee, which I thought was quite excessive and unnecessary. And the minimum balance requirement was $1,500, just as it was with Wells Fargo, or having a $250 direct deposit instead of the $500 from Wells Fargo, which was better. Again, this had no interest. The cost of checks was actually tremendously higher. For 120 checks from Bank of America, it costed $26 compared to the $18 deal you can get at Wells Fargo. There was no limit on the number of checks you can write per month, which was good, which was also the deal with Wells Fargo and Chase. Number of withdrawals allowed. There wasn't any amount of times that you can withdraw. That you can do it as many as you want. But she wouldn't give me the answer of how much you can take out per day. She was rather sketchy and wasn't very clear, which actually directed me away from Bank of America. Overdraft protection fees, there really wasn't any, or plans, sorry, there wasn't any plans. With the fees though, it would cost, again, $35 for an overdraft, but there were only three times per day you could do that, so it would come out to about $115 per day, if you overdraw in that account. But she did say that you could decline. It could automatically decline the transaction, but that could back up a lot of different things and cause many different problems, she stated. So there really wasn't a big overdraft protection fee or plan. ATM, again, if you go through Bank of America, there was no fee, but with another bank, it could cost up to $5 altogether. Um, with with Bank of America, you get one credit card for free, and then every one after that is $5 each. Um, there were no other outstanding fees um, yeah, that she had to talk about that were hidden or anything. And as far as closing an account, uh, as long as your balance was at zero and you had no pending transactions, you were good to go and free of everything to do with Bank of America. Just like Wells Fargo and Chase, that I also researched, the online banking is huge, and that's where they really try to pump your tires, is talk about how easily accessible it is. But if they can all do it, that's not a real selling point. So it's great that they offer the um, online banking, but that's uh, that's pretty that's pretty expected nowadays with the technology. And she said there weren't any bank responsibilities if stolen. There'd be an investigation, and it was actually a very difficult process to make sure that you get your money back through Bank of America, which was rather tough. If it's your money, you shouldn't have to worry about someone else stealing it. If it's not your fault, and they should help with that, I believe, but they weren't very willing to participate in helping with that. The one I actually went with is Chase, and although they had kind of an unfair advantage going into it, they still altogether best suit me, as my family goes through Chase and Wells Fargo and Bank of America. Chase offers the best family plans to with my mother, and if anything bad happened, um, for her to be able to help me out with her account as well if she's willing to. Um, so there were a couple different types of checking accounts. They had business accounts. The one I just went with was the um, standard checking account. The minimum balance requirements per account, it depended, obviously, but with my account personally, I just have to make sure that I have 10. I use uh, my debit card 10 times per month, or don't go below zero. So as long as I have $0, I don't have to do anything to keep that account going and not get fee and not have a fee to take care of or anything like that. Um, Interest, it was actually, this was the only one that had interest, was the out of the three banks, the plan I would choose actually had interest, and that would be 0.01% compounded monthly. Um, Not a whole lot, but still making money by not doing anything really. Um, there was no number of checks that could be, no limit on the number of checks that could be written per month. Um, One booklet included 120 checks for $18.95, which was average with Wells Fargo, so that wasn't too outstanding. Number of withdrawals allowed, even she said, we encourage withdrawals. It's good to make sure that we know who is doing it and the consistency is there. Um, uh, you can, as I said, you can write a number, um, as many checks as you want per month. Um, with an overdraft, this is why I actually picked Chase. Is not only can they pull from separate accounts, but they also, when the mistake is first made, they correct it and don't charge you a fee, and deal with it later without automatic, whether it was a $34 charge or whatever. They give you a chance to make sure that doesn't happen through other accounts, and even if it does happen, um, it would be a $34 overdraft, but um, they don't allow you to mess up, they really help you and make sure you stay out of trouble with overdrawing your bank account. ATM fees, again, same thing applied for all three. It's free if you do it through Chase, but about $5 through different banks. It was very simple. There were no outstanding payments that that you had to make. You get a debit card, and it was free for every debit card after that. Their online banking was actually rated the best out of any bank in the United States, so that was another positive. And you can actually work from bank to bank, or within the same bank. So if I owed my mom money, I could just transfer it right into her account, which was great. And again, they take responsibility for any fraud unless they find out that it was you and it is your fault. So I chose Chase, and I think that was an easy decision to make. But it was good to understand the other grass, per se. It isn't always greener. I'm happy with my decision, and I think that I will continue using Chase in the future. Thank you.